I didn't tell you about my spell. But I did make another video, but it went over the time, so I couldn't upload it. I made two spells. The first one was when I went to go and get some beer. I was in the middle of watching over all this stuff, right, and I thought I want a beer. But I knew I can't just, you know, I'm busy, I'm doing a video, right? This is alchemy. You can't just get up and just leave in the middle of it. But I did want to get a beer, so I went and got some beer. But what that meant is that I had to, because the shop's not very far away, I had to limp to the shop. I had to put a limp on, go to the shop, and then walk all the way around the block with a limp, just so that I didn't offset the work. Because you can't be in the middle of some alchemy and then just nip around the shop to get some beer and come back again as if like that was normal. You can't do that. So I could only get 2 beers, and I had to walk all the way around the block, which was about 20 times further than I would have had to walk if I just went to the shop and back again. So that was to offset any bad influences, and it did seem to work okay. You know, I got back, I still carried on watching over everything. Everything was okay. I got 7 veils, 7 dancing girls lifted up. So I smelled the smell about 7 times, and each time it got more like intense, and to the point where it was just ridiculous. Yeah, so it almost like it wasn't even a smell anymore. It was more like just pure, just pleasure. So that was fun. What else happened? Yeah. So this thing that you've built, or that gets built, this arc, it's a bit like you know, like Alice in Wonderland when she falls down the rabbit hole and then she's in that corridor. And she ends up crying and like filling the corridor up with tears and stuff. But she finds this door into the garden, but she's too small to get through it. And this interesting thing about this hatchway that you open up at the end of the arc. So you open it up, and if you have a look out, and that's like the garden. It's the garden that you can look into. But you close it again because later on you're going to let the crow out first, the black crow, and that represents the Venus spiritual plane, and the what's it called? The garden. You know, like the spiritual plane. We're not going to go to the spiritual plane, at least not yet anyway. First of all, we go to the mental plane, represented by the dove. So we look out into the garden. We stick our head through this gap, this sort of like trapdoor. Look into the garden, close it again, and then open it again and look into the mental plane. So first of all, we're looking into the earth sphere of the spiritual plane, and then we look into the sun sphere of the mental plane. So consequently we end up with all this sort of like light all stuck around our head. So that when we go into the spiritual tree proper, we're going to go down from the top, down the path of the fall. And the reason we're going to be allowed into the top part of the mental plane, which we're not normally allowed into, is because we're going to have our credentials. We're going to have our papers, like our stamped and stuff, which means that we've stuck our head in to this garden, and our aura around our head has got this light around it, so that when we go into the mental plane, we'll get recognised as we're going to be very small. It's like the land of the giants, right? We're going to be going into the land of the giants, and we're going to be very, very small, but we're also going to be very, very bright. We're going to carry this light with us, so they're going to allow us in where we normally wouldn't be allowed. and we're going to be allowed like passage down through the mental plane, and then back up again and back down again. Because we wouldn't normally be allowed, but because we're carrying this light, we've had a look out the window and we're carrying this light energy with us, we get recognized as like the ray of light. Now, when we're in our arc, when we open the window and have a look out, there's some light coming through. It's all been made dark inside, right? And now we become the moon in the astral plane, you see. That light reflected onto us, that's the same light that gets reflected onto the moon, so that the moon is the boss of the underworld, you know, and the astral plane. So now we've taken the place of the boss of the underworld. So now we're looking through that gap in the arc. We're getting the light on us. We close the door up again. We are now like Captain Nemo in our submarine. And we're just heading down into the mental plane, which is going to be the water. Right, and we're going to go down all the way. We're going to be travelling backwards and forwards in the water plane. It's going to be like a right gas.